Hi there, Rabbi. It's a cold and rainy day, but tomorrow a new president is going to be sworn into office and everything will get better. Isn't that right?
Exactly. I have my list of all the promises that not just President Trump made, but the Republican Party made. And I'm going to check things off. Gasoline, less than $2 a gallon. Eggs, $1 a dozen. And the list just keeps going. So I have 4 years, and we'll keep everyone posted as I check things off. There will be no more taxes on my Social Security income. In fact, maybe there'll be no more income tax. How could you argue with that, Joe?
I would not argue with that. Of course, I'm not going to have that much income.
No.
Now, everybody has heard this lecture 100 times about tariffs and how they work. But how is it going to work? How is a government agency in the United States going to take money from, say, France or Italy and collect it?
Both tariff and tax begin with the letter T. And the starting point is a tariff is a tax. We like euphemisms because we usually don't like to actually talk about things. And by using a euphemism, we think we're avoiding it. A tariff is a tax. What that means is if I am going to buy a product that came from outside the United States, or the product uses materials that came from outside the United States, then our government will add a import tax. Forget the word tariff, because that's an illusion. An import tax on the item or the materials to make it. I manufacture something. I want to keep my profits high. Remember what we learned at the Harvard School of Business? Increase profits, decrease cost. So I'm not going to lower my cost because my steel costs more. I'm just going to raise the price. So the consumer is going to be paying. Let's take steel from Canada. Canada is not going to be paying anything. The steel comes to the United States, a 10% tariff is added. The cost of the items made from that steel go up 10%. So therefore, each and every one of us is paying more for the item. It's kind
And,
of an optical illusion.
but the most important thing to remember is that that 10% tariff is not being paid by Canada. The people buying the steel pay the 10% tariff. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. So it comes in, uh, I pay 10% more for my steel, and then I just raise my price by 12% because you always have to add more for shipping and handling. So now my product costs 12% more than it did.
So the analogy I use when I try to explain it to people is, and this is the popular subject, eggs. If you buy eggs from a local farmer and they cost $2, but a dozen, but you buy eggs from France because they're French eggs, and everybody knows French eggs are better, and France is only charging $2 a dozen. Well, I'm going to buy the French eggs because they're the same price. So the United States puts a tariff on the French eggs. So when I go to the grocery store and I want to buy the French eggs are now more expensive than the local American eggs because the grocery store bought the French eggs for $2 a dozen, but they had to pay a tariff on top of the French eggs.
And I think that's the illusion, and I think that's the mistake we're making. And the difference with the eggs, though, and buying local is many of our products, there is no local. The state of California, most of its energy is purchased from Canada. Most of Canadian energy comes from coal and oil. So anyone in California that thinks by reducing consumption of gasoline or buying more electric cars will save the planet is deluding themselves because the electricity coming into California from Canada, because the United States cannot produce the volume of electricity that California needs. And so the carbon carbon's all over the planet, not only in one place. But if we attach a tariff to the electricity from Canada, then the price of electricity will just go up. Canada's not going to be right. Canada will not be paying any more. The consumer will pay a tax on the item. It's a weird illusion. And then foreign countries will then tax our stuff so that if I produce something and want to sell it in France, it's going to cost more in France. So I'm hurting as an American businessman by you making French eggs more expensive. You've put me out of business. I'm an American company, Joe.
The word that works best is free trade. A free trade system that moves items back and forth across national borders.
But interdependence, Joe, let's not call it free trade because some people cringe at this idea of it is an interdependence. There's very few, if you look at Iran, you look at North Korea, look at sanctions on Russia, you find what's happening to their economies when they can't in, get products in, when things aren't exchanged. So what we've come to learn is the exchange of goods and products is good for all of us. It's good for all business. It wasn't true in the 1800s. It wasn't true in 1492. There's lots of times. But instead of looking back, let's look at the world today. There's an interdependence of the flow of products, machines, and ideas. And if we take those countries with sanctions, we see what happens when we cut it off. And tariffs, in effect, will cut off this interchange. And it's actually going to hurt us. And it did in the past. Tariffs didn't really do any good. It's all going to fall on the IRS and businesses so that when you buy an item that comes on the list, the price automatically is taxed, not a tariff, you're taxed. This percentage on your steel, and then you collect that money from the consumer, and then you turn it over to the government. So in the end, each and every one of you watching and listening are going to be paying more for products. Make no mistake, England, France, Germany, no foreign country is going to be giving us any money. It's coming out of your pocket.
Well, I will start stockpiling steel and electricity and little rechargeable batteries all over my house. Nobody will notice because my studio is still a mess. But I appreciate the insights, Rabbi. Let's see what happens in the coming months, and we'll be looking forward to your updates on the to-do list for the new administration.
Haverim, those of you watching and listening, watch the price of products and see what happens about this new tax that's disguised as a tariff.